I'm torn between starting with what I think is going to be the end of this video, or ending with what I think will be the end of this video, because it is one of the coolest things I've put together in a while. I don't even know how to start describing it. So, well, okay, what it is, I've tried to recreate the effect of being inside an MRI while listening to Sibelius. And the reason I did that is because that's what I did this morning. So let me unpack. Let me go back. An MRI, magnetic resonance image. You're in a little tube, and it's a big machine where, I don't know, magnets resonate. I don't know. And they spin around. And on the outside, it looks kind of like a CT scan or an X-ray, but it's incredibly loud on the inside. And it's very claustrophobic. And I've had one or two or every year for the last 20 years, depending on where I'm at with various surgery or recovery, routine scan or surgical follow-up or whatever. And I don't like them. Who would? Right? Particularly when they do the head. I've talked about this before, but when you get an MRI of the head, they clasp it down with this mask. I just hate it. And usually I'm sedated. I get a prescription of Valium, so I'm a little bit loopy. But for a number of reasons this week, not for a number of reasons, for one reason, I wasn't able to get the prescription filled. And I had 2 days of scans. Tuesday and today. Today is Thursday. So on Tuesday, I went over to the scanning place, a location I hadn't been to before. Usually I go to there's a hospital just down the road. Today I went to an outpatient center that does MRIs. Very nice place, located in Blawnox, the Waterworks Mall, for those of you who are familiar with Pittsburgh. And on Tuesday, the technician said, "Would you like to listen to music?" And I was like, "No. I don't want to listen to music. I just want to get through this. And if I'm lucky, I'll breathe myself into kind of a relaxed meditative zone, and the thumping pulsation of the MRI itself will become kind of, I don't know, shamanic, trance-induced, right? I mean, it's very strange in that. They're very loud. It's kind of like being surrounded by 1,000 really tightly synchronized drums. So when I talk about it like that, when I talk about it afterwards, it sounds kind of cool. And there's an interesting realization that comes with this, that this is what I was poking around in on Tuesday. If this were like a sweat lodge type of thing, still very constrained, rhythmically induced brain entrainment, I would be having a very different experience. So I tried to open myself up to that experience, and I was doing some of my mantra repetition. And it turns out I didn't miss the sedation. I mean, the first 5 minutes, you're very anxious, because I think, what if I throw up? I'm kind of stuck like this. That'd be gross, right? What if something happens in the building and the technician the nurses all leave, and I'm stuck there, and I can't get out. It turns out I probably could get out pretty easily. I would have to break it, but I could get out if I needed to. Those are all stories that are created by my anxiety within the scenario. And there is a different story available. It's hard to get because it is a hospital, and I am getting scanned for health reasons. So it's not easy to shift the story, but the story could be shifted. I'll get to the Sibelius. Please hang on for this. So a few years ago, I wrote some music. I had my synth Eurorack. I had a Eurorack set up down by the piano, and I wrote a couple of short sketches. That I'll link to, and maybe I just played 10 or 15 seconds. So it's just three sections. The middle section was just the synth. The first and third sections had me playing, and then that was part of the intermingled with the electronic sounds. And I liked it. It does a pretty good job of capturing what it is to be, what the sound, like if you could just take the sonic effect of the MRI, extract it, it's an aesthetic experience that's quite powerful. It's not beautiful, except I think it is kind of beautiful. The combination of the damage to my hearing with the tinnitus and various other false sound artifacts that are always going on, and this MRI has definitely shaped what I think of, particularly in my electronic music. Maybe not so much at the piano, although that sort of neurotic twitching gesture that I like at the piano, I think is obviously related to all this as well. Nobody needs to know that to listen to my music. Nobody needs to know the history of the composer, whether that's me or you or someone else. But I think it's really helpful. I think maybe you do need to know. I'm thinking a lot about this right now. What do you need as the context of the music? I talked a few weeks ago about the title of a piece. I think it's important that there's a reference point. But I don't know what that reference point is in most music, right? I might know some musicological information, I might know some biographical information, but I don't know what was going on in the composer's head. I think that's part of the job of the composer, is to somehow recreate that, either through the title or through a program or through the music itself, is to create the context. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent for what I want to be talking about today. I think that some of this music, when it's, and I'm including the MRI in that, and I'm including Sibelius's Fifth Symphony, and I'm including all of Mahler, but particularly the sixth movement of the Third Symphony. I'm including Messiaen. This is music that to me points to the mortal condition, the death state, right? What is it like to actually die? Not necessarily what happens before or after, but at the moment when the energy of the body, the metabolic energy, the channel energy, the nervous energy, the spiritual energy turns inward, evaporates outwards, explodes outwards in the case of Rainbow Body. I think that sonic experience can anticipate that. I've had this sensation a few times, not many, but a few times. Once was on a very cold winter's morning in Pittsburgh, a while ago now, because I was working on the other side of the PPG Plaza. And for those of you who don't live in Pittsburgh, the PPG, Pittsburgh Plate and Glass headquarters, is a glass building. It's quite large. And it's centered around a courtyard. And it looks kind of like a castle. It's got pointy bits, and it's sort of like a modernist plate glass castle. So it's really quite a beautiful building to walk through. So it was cold. It was early morning, so it was still dark. The stars were still in the sky. I mean, because you can't see a lot of stars in the night sky in the city because of the ambient light, but I could see stars. And I had just come from the gym, so I was feeling, maybe I'd been running, and I'd taken a shower, and I was moving towards the office. And for a moment, it was as if I was stationary and the earth was moving. Right, so the sense and motion shifted. And that motion shifted because it felt as if I was sort of splattered out on the night sky, this sort of dark, rich night sky. And the stars that I could see were connected by this sort of neon plasma. And I was listening to Messiaen while I was walking. I thought, this is what it is to be dead, or to be non-physical. So today, Thursday, same guy running the shop, and he said, you didn't want music last time. I said, nah, I don't want music. And then as he was sort of hooking up the IV, I was like, you know what, I've changed my mind, but I'm going to ask for something that's sort of weirdly specific, and if it's totally okay if you can't do it. He said, all right, what is it? It's what I'd like to hear Sibelius, and I spelled Sibelius, Symphony No. 5, conducted by Leonard Bernstein. And he said, well, look, I have Pandora. And he looked, and then he came in on the headset and said, as I was in there, and he said, I couldn't find it on Pandora, but it's on YouTube. And it is on YouTube. It's a 1966 performance on YouTube. There's a couple, but the one he had found was this one. And this is a video that I just adore. I love the performance. I love Bernstein. I love everything about it. The Sibelius Fifth Symphony is one of those records that Lowry and I used to listen to in our Saturday afternoons after we'd done with our working and we were into the talking and we were a little bit into our bourbon. We'd get out this record and play it. And I have the same record downstairs. I mean, obviously, since I'm talking about it, gosh darn it, it was the symphony takes about 30 minutes. And we got through it not quite twice. I'm losing my words a little bit. So, I referenced this recording, and in particular the third movement of this recording, in a short story I wrote. And I used it as an interval of time in a couple of sections in the short story. And towards the end of the story, it turns into sort of a galactic scale, which I like to do in my short stories, none of which you've read because I haven't put them together and published them yet, but that is a goal for the next, I don't know, 3 years, maybe to finish a set of short stories. And I calculated, where did I put it? I rounded up. The third movement is 10 minutes and a couple of seconds. And I wanted to know how I wanted to know how many times you would hear that third movement if it was on repeat and you were traveling at the speed of light to Andromeda. And I came up with the number 131,400,000,000 repetitions of the third movement of Sibelius' Fifth Symphony, as performed by Leonard Bernstein. If you were traveling at the speed of light and you had a record player with you, that you could play that back and forth. What would happen to sound? You'd have to be in a... What happens relativistically to sound if you're traveling close to the speed of... or traveling at the speed of light? I didn't think about that. It's interesting. I'm going to assume you could still hear it. But of course you're traveling faster than the sound, so would you never hear it? Or is it considered within your frame of reference? Someone let me know. No, someone let me know, but also in the story, the assumption is that as I am also able to travel at the speed of light, I am also able to have with me a record player that I can hear. That's a piece of trickery that I figured out somehow. I'll revise the story. Right? Let me know and I'll correct the story. So I have these two videos, right? I have a video of Leonard Bernstein conducting Sibelius, and I have the video of me playing those electroacoustic pieces for piano and electronics. And I sort of laid them over each other just to see what would happen. And there's a wonderful, I think, synchronicity, really synchronicity, because in the middle section where I'm playing just the electronics. Oh, that's right. For the Sibelius, I only took the last movement. I didn't take the whole symphony. I just took the last movement and then plunked it up against my piece. My piece is about 12 minutes. The Sibelius, as we know, is about 10 minutes. And then I sort of cut, and I cut down the last 2 minutes or so of the symphony. And that's what I'm going to play here. And you can see that I've stood up at the piano. It's my home piano. It's down in the living room, so it's just shot on my phone. It's not very elaborate. You just see my arms and my butt as I'm doing. But I'm really getting into it, and I remember really liking what was coming out and kind of doing what looks a little bit like conducting. I'm really just sort of grooving on the sound and then using that to twiddle some knobs every once in a while. But it looks really nice. I've got the, again, I'm just using iMovie, so it's just a split screen with Bernstein and then me. And I'm astonished. There's a really nice give and take. It's as good a lineup as if I had sat down and said, I'm going to write specifically to go along with Sibelius, which wasn't on my mind when I did it. Except that Sibelius, I guess, is always always on my mind. So I think that this video that you're about to hear anticipates the final moments of physical life. And what would come after is perhaps messian neon green in the sky. I don't know. And what comes before hopefully wouldn't have been painful or distressing. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. I'm really quite moved by what this is. So any comments or feedback, I would love to hear it. Keep your wits about you.